thought we'd be smarter, I got nothing left to lose. You said you fall with me, no matter how far it goes, down deep and under. We're stuck in this pattern, but I need you closer.
Shot for goal, shot for goal, shot for goal, shot for goal! Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you may be tuning in from. Welcome to Shot for Goal. I'm Stefan Rapazzo, alongside Mr. Noah Brinkworth. Noah, another wild week in Ultimate. We bring you all the action as it unfolds. I think we're all very aware that we are amidst the pinnacle event of our sport. I am coming to you from a basement in Burlington, Noah, somewhere in the UK, but World Games was the treat that we all expected, I think, and that's what we're going to get into. We touched on it last week, our show. We had come to all of you after day 1 and 2. Of course, things heated up after that, but yeah, Noah, how are you? First things first.
Good, Steph. I'm trying to relax a little bit after a kind of busy week. It was a weird rush time in the Frisbee content creator world, which I understand is a small and insignificant world, but wow, we had a great time watching the games. I had a great time watching the games and made some fun content about it too. You can check out that on Hive. But Steph, I want to start with thinking about what was your favorite moment that you watched at the World Games?
Now, this is tough. You did preempt me with this, so, and like the one that jumps out happened before last time, and that was the Dylan Freechild block on Universe Point, one pass into Universe Point against Germany. But there are so many moments. I mean, the Mika Kurahashi block on Sasha Potsokolski at the back of the end zone.
That was right in my mind as well.
It was a pretty awesome moment. Chloé Olivier's goal to win the bronze for the French was a pretty special moment. I mean, I try and break down the final, which we're going to get to. There were some moments there, but that was more... a little bit more error than heroics at the tail end of that game, even though Canada had plenty of heroics throughout the game. But yeah, I'll stick with that. I still think Dylan's was by far the most like clutch, like we need something now. Oh, we just got something right when we needed it.
I think like Dylan's was absolutely electric, but I don't think it got me out of my seat as much as this one I'm going to mention, almost because it was so fast. You don't really expect that block to come that early in the possession, so I think the didn't really give the tension the time to build. A moment where the tension did build, Steph, I'm going to bring the pseudo quarterfinal, Colombia-France, where Ben Vignen chucks the deep ball, and Simon Ramirez gets the big piece to it, and Elliot Bonnet just gets around the back and catches it anyway.
Yeah. I forgot that. See, there's so many moments. That was, I remember writing to the comms group, like, Elliot Bonnet is clutch. Like, he just, like, you know, we're used to seeing him going up and skying and taking the big ones. But, like, even when he's not, he just ran hard. He was bigger. He didn't take his eye off the disc and still got the job done. Yeah, that was a big one. And Ben Vignen, his stock has risen. He is one of the top fantasy scorers in the tournament. Anybody who was doubting me, I qualify. I don't think I ever doubted him as a good player, but just like, okay, he'll be a good distributor. He can, you know, share some of the load with Ancelin or whatever. And no, it was the Paul Ben Vignen show as far as distribution for the French go. He was awesome, just sighting deep shots and letting loose. Like, his distribution was good, but it was really his ability to pull the trigger on the big ball, mostly backhands, or that's what I kind of saw shine out of him the most. I feel like he has a backhand hucking threat backhand hacking specialist, but he just his stock rose. He did a bit of everything. He was good in the receiving end, good cutting in small spaces, good touch distributor too. But wow, he really put the world on notice that he is here to play.
He might be the European breakout player of the tournament. He might be the breakout player of the tournament. He was so good, Steph. I think that you can have that more backhand heavy arsenal as a lefty, so you get put in that flick force scenario more. So there was a beautiful shot where you get one of the Crazy World Games cameras where you just see him rip it down the whole field. I think in one of the first few games, just like 75 yards to Bonnet. He was really good, and I agree with you that he was like shifty as well. He got Marquez a couple times in the semi-final in a row, and there's a really nice one in the 3-4 where he like runs weirdly round the outside corner back into the field, like out the field and then back in to like toe at the front corner, which is a really nice high IQ play. He was fantastic, Steph. Tell me a few other European players who you thought stood out to you.
European players. So France and Germany. I mean, Herkins is probably my favorite player on Germany. The standout, perhaps. Paul Herkins, 7 blocks over the course of the weekend, almost as many as his rest of his positive point tally. He had 8 combined, 5 goals and 3 assists. But crap loads of yards. He did have a couple turns. He had one turn.
Wow.
In the tournament. He's a D-liner. He doesn't touch it too much, but enough. He still generated 277 yards receiving and 159 throwing. Herkins was great. I thought Charlotte Schall and Lisa Schutz for the 2 youngsters were really good. Schall, a bit more particularly. She was like a center handle for the Germans. She worked really well with Nico Müller behind the disc. I'm not surprised, of course. Schall's been doing it long enough. She was selected to super team. She's a great player. But like the same way when Anna Gerner went down at EUC and Germany was like, okay, what do we do now? Well, Schall just stepped into the spotlight and took over. I feel like it was a bit like that. Like Anna wasn't a sudden dismissal this time. She was gone. They knew full well about it. They had lots of time to work their pieces into their system, but she looked like, for such a young player, she just looked so comfortable on that big stage doing her thing.
Absolutely. I got to say of the 2, I'm kind of more team Schutz. I think they both played fantastically, but I made a point in one of the videos I made. I thought that she's just so dynamic and like really
lays out so well.
Lays out so well. There's the one where Grant Lindsley poaches onto her a little bit in the Germany USA game, and it like disrupts her, and she goes for the grab catch and it knocks off her hand. But it's almost like she taps it on purpose, because then she just immediately pulls the trigger on a massive layout to save the disc and grabs it nice and control. But I think that she was also good, like when you're looking at those cutting players, I think everyone is looking to trap your like most cutter players when they get that disc on the sideline. I thought she was so good from that position. I thought that another name to mention on that German side was Diekman. I think he took a bit of the Steph Doscher role of being like a downfield threat for the offense in terms of a new player. Perhaps the best of all of the European players, along with Ben Venyen, was Schlor, though. I thought Schlor was like just so good at getting Germany out of trouble. And I'll also shout out Lison Bonneau. And I think Benji said in the Discord that the Borno rankings might be shifting, and then there was a lovely little picture from Ava and Lison.
Ava giving the thumbs down.
Ava with the thumbs down, Lison with the thumbs up. But I mean, she really stepped up in a massive way, and I thought that, there were some top FMP performances, especially in the pool plays where I think there were players who were inconsistent or went missing a little bit. I think that maybe we saw more turns out of Levka than we expected. We saw like Claire Trope went missing a little bit more than we thought she might would, and some people, and Valeria had a kind of quiet performance at the start of the tournament. I thought that Borneau was kind of like unstoppable. It seemed like she was always coming up and churning nice passes for Team France.
Yeah, I think I can agree with you totally on Borneau. She was a receiving mega threat. 7 goals, almost 600 yards receiving. But she seemed to always be there for France when they needed something upfield. She was the sneak away receiver, so to speak. Like, looking at the rest of their FMPs, Lachi was quite good, stable. She had an injury, but still a bunch of turnovers. The one who, Camille Blanc and Zoe Forget, both not that many stats. But I thought Zoe Forget was just a bit better. She was so safe with the disc. Only 2 goals, only 1 block. Camille Blanc had 2 blocks. But I was really impressed with her ability to stretch the field. She kind of did what I assumed she would do. Like, she couldn't take as dominant of a role as she did in the junior, but she did stretch the field. She did shut down a lot of upfield threats from FMPs on other teams. All of these other teams, when the French beat the Colombians in an ugly game, I thought Zoe Forget was really good, insisting that they stay in the handle space. Nobody was getting upfield when they were running with Zoe Forget. So, I give her a little shout out for one of the super young players getting onto the stage. Didn't dominate, but I think a big first step for a youth player.
Yeah, she was really strong. I doubted her. I remember when we were talking about this pre-World Game, Steph, and I didn't put her in the 7 I predicted / would have picked in that spot, and I think it was a bit of a mistake. I remember in that semi she was having quite a battle with Cammy Groom, and finally got the better of her at the end with a nice catch block. Cammy had a good tournament as well, though. I think that like sometimes those defensive specialists can like get underlooked. She did get a nasty layout block early in the tournament.
She was still great. She is. You're right, because she is not a block baiter. She is an honest defender. She will run neck and neck, and if she gets the block, it's a bonus. But she definitely will not sacrifice a look to an open receiver that she's supposed to be defending in order for her to potentially get a block. She will try and shut down the looks more than anything. She is a blanket. And yes, I wanted to mention Zoe. I think she could do a bit more once the French D-line had the disc, is all I think. I still think Cammy's probably a better defender, but I thought Zoe was really good.
Let's go from talking about players here, Steph, to talking about the game. So when we left you last week, we had the first 2 rounds of play, and it set up a 3rd round, which was pretty straightforward. There were 2 games which didn't really matter between the Australia and Canada and between USA and China. Worth saying that I don't know how much we'll cover it, Steph, but Australia seemed to have turned around their tournament and did end up finishing 5th. The haters can quiet down a little bit. It is their weakest performance as the Crocs outfit, but everyone else is getting stronger as well. So it's a big difference, I think, to get 5th or 8th. So well done to them. But the 2 big games were Germany versus Japan and Colombia, France. I think we're going to have lots of thoughts on Colombia, France. That was an interesting, longer game than some of the other ones we've had. Germany, Japan, Steph, actually pretty comfortable for Germany.
Yeah, I thought so too. Germany came out and took it away pretty early. They did very much expose the deep game, and they started shooting quite early. They took the lead in that game, and there was really no looking back. I never really thought Germany looked flustered. I never really thought Germany looked like their offense would be stopped. the Nico Mueller-driven O-line with Levka, with Nikki upfield. There were so many options against the Japanese. They were very good at using a tactic that works well against the Japanese and not trying to play the Japanese game and play a quick moving offense where the Japanese can trade off really well. They were isolating upfield, big cuts that were going a lot of north-south. And when I talked to the north towards the end zone, a lot of never even came back south because they had steps early. They had size all the time. The deep stuff, opened the scoreboard and loosened up the defense because then the Japanese defenders had to play even more behind them. And it just gave Germany so many options. Japan, good outfit. They played well, but I don't think they were on the same page at the end of the day. Like, I think they were trying to work out a game plan that encapsulated what Japan is known for, which is this small ball, fast movement, low throws, inside throws. But they were trying to get their mixed dynamic right. And I thought it was almost like the women were playing with the women better and the men were playing with the men better. But they really didn't have that cross-gender cohesion. And you could almost see it on the field.
Because I think I really agree with that, Steph. Because I think that the men, especially the kind of like Arakawa, Matsuno era guys are like really looking to shoot. Like they're catching big unders and they're like turning around and want to shoot on like 0.5 of the stall. And I think that tempo was just a little bit off with some of their FMPs. Just like a lot of overthrown hucks for their offense as well. And they ended up finishing 7th and almost got beat on Universe by China as well. It was a 13-12 in that game. So I don't know, Steph, is obviously, as we frequently say about the Japanese side, we don't know so much what's going on there. From your discussions with Canary, it seemed like perhaps there was looser organization within the Japanese team and less potentially care than is given to the other World Games teams. What do you think is there? Like, can Japan have the same sort of bounce back that we've seen Canada have and like push into the semi-finals in future years?
Yeah, I hope so. I feel like Japan's got to make mixed a priority on more than just World Games level. They can't just wait to get to the World Games and say, okay, now we're going to make our program work as a mixed program. They've clearly got good players. They've got great players that can play open and or women's. But the mixed program in Japan remains the leftovers. Every single iteration of under 24, juniors, seniors, masters, mixed is leftovers. And again, like I hope the answer is yes here, but Japan has got to wipe the slate clean on the MMP side. There can't be Matsuno on the field anymore. As not that he was like bad, but the fact that he brought in a bit of stagnancy to the program. Like, I'm not sure if I'm going to play or I'm going to coach, dragged along the program for the first 2 weeks of selection. People didn't know who was coaching. And it was, I'd say a little bit selfish in the end for him to want to do both so much to slow down the selection process. I think that's probably job one. Job two is like one, get him in a coaching booth or not on the team, but not a player coach. And I don't think by next year he'll be fit to play, but who knows? But yeah, you look at the Japanese under 24 sides, they're still strong. I would like to say that their style can still do it, but their style seems to suffer the most at World Games. Their last two iterations, Japan has not been great. And so is that because they're smaller and at this level, as much as they are a fast team, are they really faster than all these players on the USA, on Canada, on Germany that are obviously elite athletes and can get moving at a clip? Does the Japanese style still gain as much of an advantage at this level? I'm not sure. Maybe it is something that they will struggle to find, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing about it.
Do you think part of the thing with the Japanese style is it's struggling to make like a superstar for this new team? Like, so many of these teams are just a team of like 2 or 3 superstars per gender, and aside from the super old guard, it's hard to see one coming through for Japan.
Yeah, it could be Arakawa, could be Showtime, could be Kanari. But yeah, that you're right. Like in a world of like, big threes in the NBA, I don't know how it goes in Frisbee. It's more than big threes though. I think like a stacked team's got to be like a big 5 in Frisbee kind of thing. But yeah, you don't see it as much in Japan. Like, again, one of the things I love the most about World Games is to be able to watch every single game, know every single player, like really get to know the teams as kind of families and superstars that you really like. But I would say the Japanese team is one that I still watch just about every game until the bottom bracket, that I probably knew the least name. Maybe it's because the commentator couldn't say the names quick enough. Maybe it's because they don't stand off the sheet as much, and everybody takes a soldier role only, and maybe that is something that prevents people from like really having the green light to put the foot down, to step into the limelight and make it their team. I'm not sure.
I'm desperate to ask you more commentary based questions, Steph, but I think we've got to move on for now, unless you want to interrupt me to Colombia, France.
No, we should go to Colombia, France, but yeah, hit me with a commentary question. I think all our viewers were intrigued with the commentary, maybe not as much as us or me anyways, but I love the color commentary. I thought it was great.
Yeah, that's what everyone wants to ask about. No, I do think that Robin and Charlie did an excellent job. Like, where do you sit on the Brendan question? So Brendan was our play-by-play commentator, non-ultimate. He did all the disc sports at the World Games. So he did the disc golf first, and then came and did the ultimate at the second half of his week. He was a change of pace, I think, from most ultimate broadcasts. What do you think about it, Steph?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really like him, is what is the simple answer. As somebody
Fair.
who does the same job, it's tough when, our job is like get these people say their name while they're doing something, say it right. And if you get a game wrong and you mess something up, that's fine. But, to do the same names wrong twice and thrice, I thought he was very repetitive in a lot of the vernacular he used. This guy you got to watch. Another one, the ever reliable. He was quirky, and I'll be honest. By the end, I had got used to him. By the end, he almost had the names right in the final, and by the end, I could tolerate him and even enjoy him.
Good job it wasn't France in the final, though.
Oh yeah, Skoloski. Rouleau is Roulet. Yeah, he was interesting. Anyways, I understand that it's nice to have a curious commentator who's not part of the sport for fans that are not part of the sport, because he's asking a lot of the same questions that the fans, first time viewers might be watching. So I do respect that. I just think as a play-by-play specialist, somebody who does this in rugby and in other sports, there was a few of the things that I would have expected him to have tidied up by the second and third day.
So I understand that you're like the most biased man on the planet when it comes to this question, but do you think that next time round, if you could choose, would it be like just an outside guy to have that curious voice, or would you just pick one of the ultimate core?
I mean, you said it at the start. Too biased. I mean, I went back and watched some old World Games with Charlie Eisenhood in Denver before he went. I was like, yeah, you're going to get a guy like this, like 2005 guy and 2009 guy.
The Aussie guy? Or like, I mean, Brendan was Aussie as well, but
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Some of the
and there was a
GAC
British guy too. I thought it was a British guy in the GAC ones. Anyways.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. You are right.
But this inquisitive nature, it's, what do they call this a pull out there when they start the point. No, I think that a play-by-play commentator within the sport can change their narrative to be, hey, let's talk a bit more about the basics of the game while we drive the broadcast, while we get the names right, while we talk, use the lingo that's still part of the game, and explain the lingo anytime that it might be over somebody's head. I think you can get both.
I quite agree, Steph. I quite agree. Let's change it next time, but I'm kind of aware that maybe we can't change it, but if we can change it, let's change it. Anyway, Colombia, France, bit of a mess.
Train wreck. And everybody knows you can't take your eyes off the train wreck. And it was compelling to watch. I think my overall assessment to summarize that game was Colombia made a few audacious calls I did not really like, and that I think they got wrong. I would say 2 that stood out, maybe 3, but the Ospina call, and was it the Alba Sokolski call? Now I'm saying his name wrong. Skolowski. Sokolski and Alba had a bit of a push off, and Sokolski smacked the disc out of his own hand in disgust there. Those 2 were bad calls by Colombia. But France, the sheer volume of calls they made was very pedantic. They were nitpicky. And against an offense like Colombia's that needs rhythm, that needs speed, they really put a spanner in the works at the end of that. They really screwed up Colombia's offense. Gaël Ancelin he knows the rules really well, but he shows an affinity or a necessity to express as much as he knows over the course of a game. And I think in that game he was very call heavy and a little bit but of course I'm going to call it. I know it. And over explanatory and slowing the game down. And do I think it's on purpose? No. Do I think it's something that Gaël does naturally, maybe without knowing by now? Yeah, I kind of do. And do I see fault on one side more than the other? A few audacious calls, a lot of pedantic calls? No, but I know that after that started, there was no end to it. There was, once it got going, it was well, we're going to keep calling these pedantic calls now, whether because it worked or whether because we're still pissed off at your audacious calls. And the same thing, as soon as there was an audacious call, it's well, I'm not taking my call back. You've made 10 in the last 5 minutes. I'm not taking my 1 call back, even if it is audacious. And I mean, France got the win there. It was that was the Elliot Bonnet game-winning goal from Ben Vignen on the huck, which was wild. There were a lot of awesome plays in that game. There was a lot of good ultimate in that game, but it will be remembered for the shit show of calls that it was.
Yeah, I think I stand in a similar place. I can't remember being that outraged by any of the individual calls, but it did just feel like neither team would let anything go, at all. That there was a few early calls that were just marginal, nitpicky, and then it was kind of oh, we're calling every travel, are we? Oh, we're calling every pick, are we? Oh, we're calling every push-off foul, are we? And it was it just didn't go away. And I think some people, when they see games like that, are of the opinion, okay, stop causing the picks, stop traveling, stop pushing off. And other people are these things are part of the game. let's stop calling them quite so much. Unfortunately, they happen. If it's marginal, let's try and not call them to keep the game going. And that's kind of where I more lie on the issue, Steph. But I do really think that the game advisors should have stepped in. I think Charlie said this on the broadcast that they kind of regretted that they didn't, and just had that conversation that was just like, guys, that's just like, the calls that you're making aren't necessarily unreasonable or ridiculous or unfounded. There wasn't necessarily a lack of fair-mindedness, but I mean, we can't be slowing the game down that much. And I do agree with you as well that it contributed to Colombian offensive problems. I remember making a video about Colombia's offense for a Hive where from the last World Games, where I noted that of their 7 turnovers, 6 of them had come within 5 passes of a stoppage, right? And I just hope that teams don't use stoppages against the Colombians as a strategy. I think we've kind of seen people being really physical with the Colombians already as a strategy. Like often Manu and Vale get like ridiculously physical matchups, like to throw them off their game in the small ball style. So like if this is just another strategy to use against the Colombians, it's going to be like, it's a bit disappointing to see. I mean, not that they were the best outfit they've ever been.
No, it wasn't. And you know, like I really thought the male matching players in that game against France were again a full step behind, and Colombia has an imbalance for their world games. Like their women are still carrying that program way too much. They only need 7 guys, but again, like they're asking a lot of these 7 guys to rise to the level of US, Canada, Germany, Australia, like all these teams that are like have men's programs that are excelling on every level. They're bigger bodied already. They're great throwers. They play at top level in the open division. And for the Colombians to assume that, yeah, this year they're going to be better is a bit naive of them, just based on where they're playing over the course of the 4 years leading in, particularly the 1 year leading in. Like Jorge Buja, I say his name wrong always, Buja. He was being called Rodriguez for a while, I think. So I was doing better than that. But I thought he was the greatest bright spot for the MMPs for Colombia. He was a great distributor. But Colombia also lacked their size. No Mosquera, no Grajales. I forget who their tallest MMP
Jimenez
was. Yeah, Jimenez. Like
it's just brutal, Steph. They bring in 3 new MMPs, right? And it's Buya, Cortez, and Candamil. And like Buja has a bit more about him offensively. He's got fancy throws. He's not a big man though. He's maybe like what 5? You've met him in person. 5'10",
maybe
5'11".
6 foot at the most.
6 foot tops.
Seems right.
And then he was the biggest, best aerial player of the 3. I think that Cantamil and Cortez were just like small, runny defenders, basically. Candamil got on the disc more because there were times where they were taking kind of advantage of Candamil and having a woman mark him and having a man mark Valeria. So he got more involved offensively, but it's brutal when you bring in 3 new players to the program, even if those players were only at that level of those 3, at the average level of those 3 Colombians. But they were like 6'3", 6'4", big dudes who could, dissuade the deep shots. And there's 5 games time. Like a lot of players just aren't going to be tested more than once or twice over the tournament deep. So you don't even know if they're not actually elite deep defenders. But they just need to bring in players with some to stretch the field.
They need to, I would say almost until they start getting their top players becoming bigger players, they need to specifically recruit at least 1, but probably 2
one each
male
line.
matching giants.
Yeah.
At least. at least 2 male matching 6'4" guys that, and okay, you can't throw. All right, we'll work around it. We'll find a way to do everything else, but we need somebody to fill that role. And it sucks because every other team has the luxury of having some big guys and some fast guys and some smart guys and some throw guys that can usually do all the rest reasonably well. They're still pretty big. They're still pretty fast if they're specializing in another realm. But Colombia just they clearly lack the size, and that is something that they've got to go out and get, and that should be top of the list for Colombian recruiting.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've still got
the basketball courts.
Hell yeah, that's what they got to do. As we move into semi-finals, should we take a quick break here for the people at home, and then we'll come back to you with thoughts on those semi-finals and finals.
See you.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
Oh my goodness! That is unbelievable! And created the tip and made for it!
That was absolutely incredible!
We are back. I'm Steph. That's Noah. First half of World Games covered. Now let's get into the exciting stuff, Noah. 2 teams, Canada, US, the last game of their pool play didn't even matter. They both went ahead and won it anyways, stayed 3-0. As mentioned, Germany won the game to go against Japan. France won the game to go against Colombia. That set up France, USA, Canada versus Germany. Let's start with Canada versus Germany, Noah. I mean, you asked me what my favorite moment was at the front, and I forgot about the game-winning goal on this one. Was it the game-winning goal, the Thomas Edmonds layout off the tip?
Oh, yeah.
Because that was a moment as well. And we'll start with that. But actually, what I'm going to start with is how much I liked Canada over the course of this tournament. I think I said last week they made a couple calls in their very first game against Australia that were niggly and I didn't love, but I felt like those went away. I felt like they found their identity. They just kept grinding. They had contributions from all parts of the field. They missed BDS. Brittany DeSantos got hurt after the second game. Not having her, maybe could have been the difference as this thing goes on. Spoilers. I think everybody knows the spoilers right now. We're in full analysis mode, but could have been the difference when Canada played the US. Didn't need her in the semi, but I really like Canada played a really spirited game. In the end, they were second in spirit, so the competitors all believed the same thing. But the spirit of the team is something that I really felt, like the high fives, the celebrations, the running, jumping hugs. The Canada really did have something going there, and that je ne sais quoi, as we like to say, is something that makes teams. It's that capturing lightning in a bottle, being able to do it, like these uncontrollables, these things, the vibes, the team building. You never know what's going to stick, but when it does, and you get these teams that love each other, it is so much more often than not than they are playing to win at these tournaments. And I think Canada did that really well. So yeah, I want to give kudos to Canada. I've chucked them under the bus a bunch in the past, but I hope that they are indeed a program on the rise in spirit. And I think that this iteration was a great display of what the Canadians are made of, both in their ability to win games and their ability to win your hearts.
Yeah, they were really, really enjoyable to watch, and I really appreciated all of those little moments as well. I think that I've seen some of these players have played together on other national teams before, on club teams across men's mixed and women's. Just I remember like one that really sticks out to me is Miliko Samar puts up like the trust ball to Kurahashi after she's like running off the quick turn, and there's players closing in, but she just like high points it, brutal. They run up like a little bit shoulder to shoulder, and it was super cool to see. This semi-final was still like the Canada were in this like perfect flow where they were playing at like their A+ game, and Germany just could not disrupt their offense. I think this was like Thomas Edmonds' best game of the tournament in the semi-final. It wasn't until they faced the US where there was really match-up defenders who could disrupt him in a big way. He was fantastic as a distributor, Steph, and big contributions for players like Lauren Komura, who I think hotted up throughout the tournament. I think she just got better and better. I was a bit worried that she might be a weak link. She was certainly not, as given how she played in the bracket play. I think Beaudry was just good all week. She was class.
Yeah, the Edmonds, I'll give that a bit more wind in the sails. The number one yards thrower in the tournament by a mile, 1,323 yards. The only other person over 1,000 we've spoke about is Ben Vignen with 56. And after that, I'm looking here. There's a couple 900s, but he was way ahead. Nico Mueller had 900, 950 or something, and that's it. Like he was like head and shoulders above with 11 assists. You're right. He had a tough end of the final where the pressure got to him and slowed him down. But I think up until that point, he was awesome, as you said. Quentin Snyder, I had in fantasy, so I was keeping my eye on him. I kept waking up every day like, Snyder. That was such a great pick for me. I'm happy about him. He was really good.
Edmonds as well did it on only 3 turns, which is kind of ridiculous.
And
right?
I think 2 of those turns were in the last 5 points of the final.
So imagine for players at home, a pitch is like 65 meters. He threw 1,350. He turned it over 3 times. So every time for every turnover he had, he worked up the pitch 7.5 times for every single turnover. Like, can you, as a player, imagine doing that? Because I certainly cannot. I think I am having a fantastic game if I'm getting 2 pitches worth up the field. If I'm getting over 100 yards per turn, he's getting 450 yards per turn. That is ridiculous.
Madness. Who did you say we were talking about breakout players of the tournament earlier? Were we talking about Ben Vignen?
We were talking about Ben Vignen, yeah.
Well, I mean, my other one, which is, he's an older player, but as a Canadian, is Chata. Gagan Chata. I think like he was a alternate that got a spot onto this team because Mike McKenzie went out. He was fucking awesome. Like his, he's got a big arm. I've seen him using these in warm-ups. Sorry, I can't help myself. But he was awesome. His big shots, his high takes, like that scuba in the semi, just flipping him over top. Like I thought Gagan Chata for the Canadian D-line, he was such a great quarterback. I thought it was going to end up being Lloyd who would have to quarterback that line, but Lloyd ended up being more of a target. And Marty Gallant with the speed, Chata.
It was really brutal for Chata because his best throw was cut off by the broadcast, right? It was the one where they were in replay and Chata gets it at the front cone and he rips the backhand like, deep into mid-back of end zone. I think this was in the semi. Yeah, actually.
Yes, I remember not seeing the throw.
Deep in the stretch, like being like what the hell? Chatha just scored in one pass, like 75-yard absolute dime. And I think that was to an FNP, and you could see that he was a player with great mix experience coming from like Red Flag and the WUC 2024 roster. He was I'm really glad that because I think he should have definitely been on the team 3 years ago when he was more in his complete prime. There was plenty of players that I think he could have been picked over in that squad. So I really like that he got his run out. And I'm sure Mike McKenzie would have been great too, but he might have another cycle himself. And but yeah, Chatha was fantastic.
Okay, so we got one more game to talk about then. Okay, well, this game, Canada-Germany, we haven't really talked about the game. We talked about the game-winning goal. Canada got, they were just rolling still. They kept going from what they were doing in pool play, an early break. Was Germany struggling offensively against Canada? I guess so. The Canadian defensive pressure was as much as they had seen.
But you saw that Schlaw was just couldn't have impact in the same way he had in the pool play games. It was a dominant performance. I think that they had some D-line performances, like the D of Molly Wedge, super impressive, and
13-9 in that game. You go over to the USA-France, a bit of the same. 13-9 was the score. France used everything they had to get ahead of Colombia, it seemed. Went against the U.S., who, yes, they have had this magic before, but I think, U.S. getting to go on cruise control against China in their last game. France having to fight tooth and nail. Again, we talk about the Forget matchup with Groom there. There were some instances in the game, but that was another one that was USA's game from beginning to end. I love the French resilience. They're never say die. They stay in it. They fight back. But this was one that the first time they were outclassed, maybe the only time they were outclassed on the entire weekend.
Yeah, they were. And I think the French, what you love about watching them is they can really make a play, and sometimes that's chucking up the deep bomb. There's other times where it's just the pressure is suffocating and they just stay in it and grind unders and grind resets and just manage to get there. I think it was an impressive showing against the US.
Impressive showing. US get it done. Rafi Hayes had another big game. He had him in my fantasy, so I always see him showing up. But
he really turned a corner in the bracket play.
Took
all of the turnovers out of his game.
Yeah, and was just bombing shit too. Not just being a bombing receiving target, but letting Hucks rip out of the forehand more frequently, but putting dimes down the other. Chloe Vallée had a really good semi for France, I think, and I didn't mention her name earlier. I did quite like what Chloe Vallée did for the French women. Probably one of the lower picks besides Salomé Rollet, who came in. I would imagine she snuck into the 7, and she pulled her weight big time through the tournament.
Was this the game where Vallée threw that beautiful crossfield deep shot?
Yes.
Yeah, that was brilliant shot.
It was an absolute stinger. She had a great game. So as we're pushing towards our hour, we want to mention some EUCS, but into the final, Noah. Canada, USA, the great North American powerhouses. Canada finally back in ascendancy, 3-0, taking on the Americans, also 3-0. Well, now 4 with their semifinal, equal semifinal victories. Both won 13-9. But it's always a U.S. advantage. But that was not the way that the final started. Canada came out. They went down early. I'm opening up my stats here. Give me a second.
USA came out on 0 and got the hold, and they, I believe that it was Canada with the first break. It was the Cami Groom drop on the far corner into... She almost comes back and gets the block on Kurahashi, and then Kurahashi just chucks it to Dion.
Yeah,
was that the first break?
Right. You got it. You've nailed every part of that. That's the first break. That made it 2-1 Canada.
Yeah, and so that was pretty exciting. I mean, the start of the game, sometimes with these like big pressure games, Steph, like if we're thinking about like USA Japan 2016, there's like runs of points before you get a single block. Usually the game kind of deteriorates as people get more and more tired, but I thought people, like the players, looked really, really nervous, if I'm honest, and made some weird errors. There were like a lot of drops in this game. And a lot of like strange moments, strange errors. I'm thinking like the Dion drop in the end zone. That was brutal one. Cami misses that drop. Dylan Freechild had a bad drop. You had the Sarah
Dion drop in the end zone was really bad because of when it was as well. That would have
the timing was.
That was, I believe, that was when we were playing at 11-9. Yeah, multi-turn point. That would have made it 12-9, and really would have iced it. Because so after Canada gets the first break, US break twice. Okay, in the next 4 points. They make it 5-3, 2-point lead, and everybody's thinking, oh, no, not this again. They're just going to trade out and, sit on this lead. But Canada break before half, tied up 6-6. Sure,
so
U.S.
Thomas Edmonds-Callahan, was that for a break or was that a hold? That kind of like was a big momentum changer in that first half. Dylan Freechild just chucks it over Finney's head, and that was like, whoa, this is okay. Canada is fighting them here.
Yeah, or the Callahan, I can't see statted here.
It's definitely first half.
And was it a break?
4, 5, or 6 for Canada. I'm not totally sure. It was definitely after the turn because it was Freechild checking in at the far cone. But it might have been just a multi-turn point. There were a few multi-turns in the game.
Yeah, here it is. At 3-3, no assist. To make it 3-3. So that was right after the U.S. That's right. It was right after the U.S. broke to break back and equalize. Then it was, a multi-turn point. One turn each. And then Edmonds got the Callahan. Nice. I forgot about that.
And then after those U.S. breaks, it was the Freechild drop into Malik shoots to Kurahashi at the far zone, and it's like, okay, we're back in this. And that was like, it was a really even first half. That third quarter stuff was crazy because Canada just like accelerated, and we go into like heat break 10-8, and I'm like, oh my god, like Canada, not only are they playing better, not only have they played better the whole tournament, they're in the lead, and they're now like the odds-on betting favorite. Like you now take them even odds. You take them 2-1. They have to go out and win this. Yeah,
at 8-10, they look good. U.S. score. They score back 11-9, and I still remember at this stage. I watched it I was almost live, but I started about a half hour late, and I was catching up, and I was like, okay, I'm going to the bathroom, but like, holy shit, this is gonna happen. Canada's gonna like. In my head, I was like, they would have to get outscored 4-1 here to not win. Like they are not playing like they are going to get beat 4-1. Like Canada's going to win this. And well, we know the results. Like, how does this happen? Like that. It is not Canada was bad. It is the U.S. and it is how good they are and how focused they are. This is a show of the mental strength. It is a show of what experience brings to a team. People worry about the age of the U.S. and you worry about having, but I tell you, at the end of a game like that, having Kayla Heltons and Dylan Freechilds and Chris Kochers and Grant Lindsley's, and it is such a blessing to be able to have these people contributing, getting these goals. Cammy Groom. It was
this whole thing is kind of the Maddie Sang gambit, right? It's like this run these kind of weird, open-ish, less two-linesy than last time, different kind of scheme, but still players not always playing with the same players, not always playing in the roles that completely suit them, but players getting very even play. And you worry about the chemistry throughout the tournament. There was some offensive miscues. I think Charlie on Deep Look said it was potentially the worst US World Games team he's seen and that he can remember. But then in the stretch, all of their players had legs, and the Canadians were absolutely gassed, I think, especially on the film matching side, with the notable exception of Molly Wedge, who I thought was just like had the crazy fitness and was still getting free all the time. But they were playing through 6 women after Britt dos Santos went down. So those last few points, they weren't even losing yet. They were still winning or drawing, but just did not have the legs in any way possible to mount a comeback, to mount any sort of defensive pressure. They were absolutely gassed, and the Americans, it's almost like a slow and steady Matty Sang gambit, like hoping that they can outlast all the other teams almost.
Yeah, it was sad to watch, but kind of expectant to watch, and kind of like it was an awesome game in the end. To see that comeback was awesome, even if you're not rooting, so much of the world is anybody but the US kind of fanfare in their corner, but it was still awesome to watch. Molly Wedge was awesome. I think on the very last point of the game on Universe, her over pursuit there did cost the next 3 throws that got to the goal line there. I understood what she was doing, but goodness, she lost 3 or 4 steps, and that opened a lot of space coming back down the line into the red zone. I mean, I don't know how to break it down without going through video by one point, like one turnover, 1 point at a time right now, except to say that it was, as you said, the Matty Sang factor, just the USA factor, the mental strength and resilience. They didn't take their foot off the gas. They believed the whole way through, and those damn Americans got it done once again.
They get there. They get there as they so frequently do. And it's the only thing that the slight blemish on the game is that the Universe point was just kind of brutal. And I think that, like Canada were tired. They desperately needed a timeout to call there. And I don't at all regret the Canadian coaching staff for calling one at 11s or 11:10, as I think they do after the USA mount that bit of a comeback. But yeah, I think so. A question I wanted to ask Steph is, this tournament, WUFDF, I think players learned on the field, like, in the captain's meeting, that this tournament would go from the 2 timeouts per game per team to 1, and from the 75 seconds or maybe 80 seconds between points to 60 seconds between points. There's also no injury substitution, so if someone goes out of a major injury, the team has to play through 6 of that gender. It's just injuries particularly brutal in a mixed format like this, short-sided. Steph, do you think I think there needs to be adjustments here to make this a less brutal tournament? I also heard, Steph, someone saying on the ULTI World Discord that between the 112 players, there were 5 ligament tears over the 5 days of play, which is brutal. I think like BDS, Roblé, and 3 Chinese players had ligament tears by the end of the tournament. So, ouch.
Yeah, that is tough. This sport is brutal. I mean, surfaces look good. I mean, the heat, I guess, the smaller rosters, the less breaks. Maybe it is something that needs to be taken into account and remedied moving forward. It's an interesting one. Looking at the sport moving forward, the Olympic bid wants it to be a 4-player game on a beach surface that's just as big and less subs, and there's almost something that like makes it more brutal, and brutal makes it more entertaining based on, it's Savage. I remember playing Savage 7-on-7 Ultimate. There is something about that though that is attractive, but is it that attractive that it's worth the potential downside of these players not being able to perform after a big tournament, with so many of them being ousted after a big tournament. Like ACL is something you can recover, but not everybody recovers from. For some people, that could be the end of their ultimate careers. Yeah, it's something to keep in mind for sure.
I think that adding back a second time out, especially given that we're not going to have necessarily heat breaks, is a bit of a no-brainer. And I also think it's that teams need to be told what the format is in selection, because I think that it was notable that players who had great cardio, like your kind of Kayla Heltons and Finneys and Grant Linsleys and Levkas, did really, really well. And then there were some players who I thought were like just absolutely gassed. I thought some of the Australians, I thought at times Cartagena looked really gassed. There were times where the French were just like completely on their haunches, and the Canadians are definitely at the end of that game. Colombians at a point, I remember in pools, weren't even playing defense at a point, just like kind of letting the other team walk up the field. So I think when we talk about this in 4 years' time, we need to think about, like, does this player have like the cardio to play on this kind of event?
Yeah, you got to get your size, you got to get your speed, you got to get your cardio, you got to get everything. I will finish with one thing that U.S. got it done. 2 universe point wins in the tournament by the hair of their chinny chin chin. I'm not going to go as far as saying that this is the worst USA team, U.S. World Games team. I don't think it was. I think the world is catching up. When you only need 14 from the next 6 best nations and a host nation, this competition is going to get tighter and tighter year after year. U.S. still have the mega advantage, the bigger playing pool, the higher competition levels on home turf. They're going to have the advantage, but that advantage is going to diminish bit by bit. I hope that we get to see more events leading into it, like the London Invite, where you can have preparation tournaments like this, where you can get Tokai super teams. Hey, USA only lost 1 game this whole year. Did I mention that in the last show, Noah?
I think you might have, maybe.
Like,
who was that against?
You talking about USA under 24s mixed, not undefeated. USA under 24s open undefeated. USA under 24 women undefeated. USA World Games mixed, 1 loss to the Tokai super team. And even though it wasn't at the right time, I'm pretty happy to claim that 1 victory and to show that the vulnerability exists. So the U.S. will have to, draw on everything once again, because I think they drew on everything to get that win. Short games, less timeouts, less chance to recover from error. We've been talking about it leading into it. It was the case. They manage it by the hair of their chinny chin chins, and I just can't wait to see what more we get, because there is more and more and more. But that is all about...
Well, I think that a London Invite warm-up tournament is certainly going to happen again, or some sort of warm-up, Steph, because the 5 World Games teams that went came 1 through 5, and the 3 that didn't came 6 through 8. So that's not a show that you need a warm-up tournament playing against these other teams if you want to compete. And there you go. Before we get off World Games, we should note in the bronze medal match, Steph, and that France take the dub over Germany. Brutal for Germany, 4th place twice in a row. It did feel like they had kind of set themselves up mentally, were ready to go and get that bronze, and I think it really, really hurt a lot of the players on the field when they were unable to do so. And France put together a great performance there, and it was more brilliance from Ben Vignen and Bonnet and Bourneau, but a tricky one to swallow for Germany.
Tricky one, but I do think the French were playing the tournament more. I think Germany still maybe a bit more of an eye to win or to get into the final than France did. France just I think they were a better team playing one game at a time. And I think they rallied from their semifinal loss better than Germany did. Noah, we wanted to talk a little bit about EUCS. We're not going to. That'll be next week. We got lots to talk about next week. UK Nationals. But we will have a mention. Volker Bernardi, has sat at the top of the WFTF for so long, has sadly passed. He died at the age of 56 following a brief and serious illness. He's done so much to try and get the sport into the Olympics, has worked at the top of the federation, and will be sadly missed. So our condolences to the family and friends and our community for Volker Bernardi.
Absolutely, Seth. Really sad to hear.
Sad news, but yeah, we'll do our best to celebrate his life and all that he did by bringing more to this sport, as always. Thank you all for tuning in. Once again, we will be back next week. Next week will be on a Tuesday, we think. Thank you so much for checking out all our World Games coverage. Noah and I have been glued to our laptops, TV sets, bringing you all this action. Noah, I can't wait for the next World Games. We got 4 years, though. It's going to be a little while.
Yeah, well, World Clubs first. UK Nats being one to get a World Club spot is what I'm hearing on the grapevine. We'll talk more about it next week.
Let's see if Noah's got his ear to the ground here. For Noah, I've been Steph. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you all next time.